and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share a Kickstarter preview of Split the Hoard from EN Publishing. This is designed by Mark Kenobi, and the game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, and plays in around 20 minutes. Now, this is currently fully funded on Kickstarter. The project is going to run through October 24th, and you can reserve a copy of the game for a pledge of approximately $20. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got at least the prototype of Split the Hoard. So I do want to mention that the fine folks from EN Publishing were kind enough to provide me with this prototype. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this Kickstarter preview with you. These days, it's very important you know that. We're also not going to go through all the steps of gameplay and everything else. I just want to give you kind of an overview of the game and then share not only my thoughts, but what some of the gang felt about Split the Hoard as well. So essentially what's going on here, 2 to 5 players, each of the players are going to represent a classic fantasy role-playing class. So we've got our warrior, our wizard, our druid, our cleric, and our rogue. Everybody's going to just receive a class randomly, or they can pick. It really doesn't have a huge impact on the actual gameplay. Then what we're trying to do is we're trying to score as many victory points as we possibly can by way of what we select from a defeated dragon's treasure hoard, thus the title Split the Hoard. So what we're going to see is we've got various different titles, we've got treasures, we've got coins, and they're all cards. So we are going to have these various different titles available to us. These will be assigned at the end of the game, and they are each worth 30 victory points. So that is a nice chunk of victory points that each of these will represent. So we also have titles which will be assigned to us secretly when we receive our class. So we get to look at them as a player, but you keep it secret from everybody else. Now, these are worth fewer victory points, but we also have an easier time earning these, and these are secret too. So if you happen to have the quartermaster, well, then no one else knows that you're trying to get arms treasures and so forth. So just kind of giving an idea here. I do like the various different titles. I love the fact that we have secret titles and then we're all going to compete for these other titles. So as an example, the arcane title here isn't necessarily going to be earned by the wizard. You would think that would be the case, but it's not. So something else to keep in mind too is that the way this game is designed, games are going to play differently all the time. They are not going to play out the same way. So it's important for me to point out when we started to play this, we didn't wrap our heads around this quickly, which looking back at it, I'm kind of surprised because I would have thought we would have. But the thing is, as far as Split the Hoard goes, I personally think you need to play it a few times before things start to click and you're able to try to create strategies on the fly as you're playing. Because once again, this is going to be very random as far as what treasures come up, what treasures you'll have access to, how you'll be able to achieve claiming those. So kind of cool what's going on here. We enjoyed this quite a bit once we actually knew exactly what we were doing. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to start off with 4 cards. Each player will have 4 cards. And these represent coins. So they also have treasures on the other side, but on this side, these represent coins. And you're going to actually use these coins to spend to negotiate with other players with various treasures that they are offering. And that's what these cards are for. This is for our negotiation phase. So we are going to actually each, as a player, draw treasures, and then we are going to place them on our negotiation cards, which represents how much other players would have to spend to receive the treasures that are on these cards. So you're going to have the 4 coins to start off with, and then each player will draw 3 treasures. Now, they get to take a look to see what they are, and the treasures could be worth victory points. At the end of the game, they might have a rank, which is utilized as far as some of the titles which are available. We have abilities on many of these treasures as well. So, as an example, this holy text, if you discard it, you can get 2 coins in the negotiate phase. So, we'll also see some of these that have special abilities that you can use. It'll show you what phase that will take place in. Now, interestingly enough, if you happen to use a special ability on one of your treasures, then that treasure gets discarded. So pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of juggling that goes on if you're looking to try to win the game. So, next thing I'm going to do is I am going to decide, okay, so how much do I want for each of these treasures? And this is one of the aspects that it's going to take a little bit of gameplay, repeated play, to get a better feel for, well, what's really the value of these various different treasures, especially when you're looking at the other players and what classes they have. So it's something to keep in mind there, because each of the classes will have a little bit of a special ability, which is going to determine how that player might approach the game, or maybe not. So just to move this along, I'm going to say, okay, the holy text, I'm going to say is going to be 1 coin, prophecy, 2 coins, and the healing herbs, 3 coins. Now, I do not own these. These do not belong to me. So I cannot use these special abilities at this point in time. So once all of the players have done this, then we would have our negotiation phase. And that's when you'll use your coins to make purchases. Now, if you decide you're not going to purchase anything, you may draw 2 cards and you may keep those as coins. Now, you can't look at the treasures that are underneath unless you have a special treasure in your hoard that you can actually use that special ability to check to see what is actually on the other side. So it's important for players to keep in mind that when they're drawing coins, they can't flip the cards over to take a look to see what they are. So, as an example, what I may have done is I may have decided that I wanted to make this even more expensive. I could add another coin from my collection to this to make that now 4. Or I could have just added it to this and made this 3, made that 2, whatever. Now, of course, maybe I'll do that with something that I really want to keep for myself. Or maybe it's something that's really good and I want to make sure that, yeah, I get coins for it. So, what we'll do is we'll move into the negotiation phase, and each player going around the table is going to purchase from any of the other players. And you can purchase as many items as long as you have coins. Now, of course, it goes one player gets to buy, then the next player gets to buy, next player gets to buy. And once you've gone around, if anybody wants to continue purchasing during the negotiation phase, they certainly can. So keep that in mind. You can't just spend all of your coins and not let other players have an opportunity to take their turn. So once everybody's done with the negotiation phase, we then move on to the claim phase, which anything that has not been purchased is going to get added to your haul. So now the healing herbs will just say somebody bought the other two. The healing herbs are now mine. I now get to keep this as part of my haul. Now, of course, that also means that I can use this special ability during the appropriate phase. This also has a rank. So if I find other things that are like 4 or 6, I can put them in line because we're looking at ranks. So what will eventually happen, I'm just going to grab some cards here. There are essentially 5 suits and they are color coded. They also do have the various different logos, the emblems. So let's say, as an example, this is my haul. This is how you would actually be putting it together, like so. So, what you can do actually, I would probably do it like that. Because what you'll end up doing is at the end of the game, that's worth 10 victory points if I still have that in my haul. So, what will eventually take place is as you're kind of stacking up these various different treasures, you're not going to know exactly how many victory points your other players have already banked away because they will end up making sure to cover them up. Give you an example. So, something like that, right? So, you're still showing what you've got, but you are covering up the various different treasures, victory points. So you'll find that out as far as with the various different treasures in the hall, because there are special abilities that allow you to swipe treasures, trade treasures, all different things. So things are going to come and go out of your haul, especially if you're also using special abilities as the game progresses. Now, what'll happen is if you run out of cards, the game will end. That is the end game trigger for you to start counting up your victory points. And the first thing you'll be doing is you will be assigning the various different 30-point titles because these are presented in ways that these will be earned. There are not going to be any titles out of these 5 that, oh, no, I'm sorry, nobody earned these titles. These titles will be assigned to various different players, and it is quite possible that players will have multiple titles from these 5. It is certainly possible, especially if you're playing with fewer than 5 players. These are going to get divvied up. All right, so that's kind of an idea of how you play Split the Hoard. I'm going to swing on over to the other camera so I can share some thoughts about the game itself. I don't provide review scores for Kickstarter projects simply because this isn't exactly the final product that's going to make its way into consumers' hands. I know there are player boards for each of the classes that are going to come with this to make things easier as far as laying out your negotiation cards and things like that. There are also going to be some little shields, some privacy shields, which of course I didn't receive those either. But like I said, the core of the game is here. It's just not the finished product that I've had an opportunity to check out with myself and the rest of the gang. We enjoyed this quite a bit, especially once we sort of got a better handle on things. There's a lot of gameplay packed inside Split the Hoard for approximately $20. So, as far as your pledge level to receive the game, I was very pleasantly surprised by that. Artworks are out, nicely done. Would have liked a little more variety in the artwork, but I understand why we didn't see as much because there are like set collecting and things like that, duplicate treasures that you're looking to score to get various different titles as well. So I understand that. I will say that I would have liked to have seen larger font as far as the text. The little logo here doesn't necessarily have to be so large. There is a lot of empty space here. Give you an example on one of the treasures. Lots of empty space. So you could certainly have a far larger font, making it much easier for players of various ages to easily see the cards. Also, want to point out the rogue card here, which was the class that I was sharing. It's a different font, and the way this font is done is not easy to read. Really not. Strangely enough, it's a different font than what we find on all of the other cards. So we had a hard time when we first started playing, figuring out, what the hell does this say? What does the rogue get to do? Huh? Would have been far easier if it was just a single font. So really, that's my quibble with this prototype is that the text should be larger, make it all the same font, make it easier on everybody's eyes who are looking to play the game. But all in all, we had a good time with this. We enjoyed this. I might sound a little bit like a broken record, but I truly feel for a pledge of approximately $20, you're getting a lot of gameplay out of Split the Horde. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Very nicely done. All right. So once again, this is fully funded on Kickstarter. It will run through October 24th, and you can score Split the Horde with the extra goodies that I mentioned that I did not get with this prototype, all for that pledge of approximately $20. So check it out if I have piqued your interest. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this Kickstarter preview, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.